Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby preview show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Yay! So yes, it's round 2 of Super Rugby Aotearoa and round 3 of Super Rugby AU. We have 4 games this weekend and there might not be big crowds at some of them, but hey, at least they're going ahead, which is kind of cool. What isn't so cool though, Cornflake, is that they are decided that, hey, because it's Sunday, we won't bother releasing some of our squads yet until the Sunday game, and so we don't have lineups to talk about for all of the games. But at least the Australians are civilised in this one aspect, in the fact they release their squads on Wednesday night. Isn't that true?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole Sunday rugby thing is all a bit of a nightmare. If you ask me, I'm against it. But if someone has to work Sundays, it's always bad because I can't watch the games, and then it just ruins my whole weekend. So there you go. Make working on Sundays illegal. There we go. Start that process. That's what we want to do.
Exactly. Then all those professional rugby players can't work on Sundays. They can't play on Sundays or train on Sundays.
Didn't think that through very well. Stop anyone on low wages working Sundays. We'll go off that.
Dear me. Cool. Anyway, I could pull apart that one as well. Yeah, you'd have no one serving food or drinks at the stadiums, no one collecting the tickets and all that kind of stuff. But hey, never mind.
Just me then.
Just you, exactly. Yeah. Just yeah. Don't let retail shops open on Sundays. That's what you want. That's what you want to say. There we go. Anyway, first up, we have on Friday evening the Chiefs versus the Highlanders, and I was lucky enough to attend a Zoom call where Clayton McMillan announced the names and answered questions from the media. Unfortunately, all those big media people asked too many questions, and he ran out of time before he got to me. So there we go. But quick run through then. D-Mac at 15, Jonah Lowe at 14, Sean Wainui in the 13 jersey in the centres there, Anton Brown at 12, Etienne Nana Satoro at 11, Bryn Gatland and Brad Webber are your 10 and 9. Across the front row, O'Neill, Tekilahu, Mafaleo, in the engine room, Vai and Arkoi, and then you've got Finau or Sami Pinu Finau at 6, Kane and Luke Jacobson at 7 and 8. Replacements, Slater, Norris to Arvo across front row, Mitchell Brown, Mitchell Karpik, Xavier Rowe, Nankiville and Sean Stevenson. So a few surprises in there, I think, with players like Finau, who's not even got a full-time contract with the Chiefs. He's just injury cover at the moment, starting in 6. Sean Wainui in that 13 jersey. We've seen him do that at Mitre 10 Cup level, but historically he's been on the wing, hasn't he, for the Chiefs?
Generally speaking, would be on the wing. Yeah, there's a few interesting matchups in this game for both sides. But yeah, you look at the bench and you say there's quite a bit of power on there that you normally would put into a starting lineup, wouldn't you? Like especially a guy like a Karpik in that, you know, instead of a debutant in that back row, the Tartavels, guys like that, where you put into the starting lineup, especially if what they've lost. But what I find really interesting about this Chiefs team is what they've actually nicked off everyone else. The guys like Mafaleo from the Blues, if I'm not mistaken, Jonah Lowe from the Hurricanes, and of course the big man in number 10, Bryn Gatland, the heartbreaker for the Chiefs a year ago. Now he's on their side, so how quickly things changed. But the team, it's a typical Chiefs team, isn't it? And we don't know what to expect from it just yet either. But what I am glad to see, and I'm sure plenty of people are going to agree with this, he's at 15. Oh, thank goodness for that. Damien McKenzie's at 15. He's not at 10. Don't do anything stupid. So that's always a good start. I like that. There's always that fear. I prefer him at 15, and we'll see. You know, he's going to impact the game. He's going to go in there and be a first receiver a lot of the time. But it's just that freedom, I think, just makes him such a different player, and ability to get out there and make things happen and do it on his own sort of accord rather than having to be, you know, that structured player and be in that place at that time. So good for him. I think Brent Gatland's experienced enough. Just hopefully, you know, he's not going to repeat any of those heartbreaks from, you know, last year. Keep him nice and toned down.
Yeah, I mean, D-Mac is the replacement 10. Let's be honest, with Nankiville and Sean Stevenson. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that in the sort of the 10 position come the second half or partway through the second half. Interesting ones, Mitchell Brown and Mitchell Karpik, both Lucy's. Traditionally, Mitchell Brown as lock cover, so a bit concerned there. If either Arkoi or Vai go down early, that could be a problem. The two 21-year-olds in there, so a very young engine room. Xavier Rowe ahead of Triple T now, and the reason he got players like Ta'ava on the bench is because they've either had a niggle and haven't had as much game time, or those sort of things is why you've seen people like Karpik and Ta'ava on the bench there. So is what he was telling us. He said basically Triple T missed one of the games through a slight niggle, and Xavier Rowe took his opportunity in the preseason. So you having that new coach in Clayton McMillan in there means that there was a bit more of a blank slate for some of these players. Let's be honest, there wasn't a blank slate for Sam Kane or Damon McKenzie. They were going to play, but some of the other players have a couple of other players there have got better position, have managed to grab positions through other players having slight niggles, and he's just not had the opportunity to see them. Quick look at the Landers then. Hunt at the back with Colin Gardner-Bashop, who really impressed last weekend on the wing. Punavai Tompkinson in the centres, Nariki on the other wing. Josh Awani gets the 10 jersey this time. Fakatava will start at 9. The front row, Leonard Brown, Dixon, Tokalahi. We've got Dixon and Regan in the engine room. Frizzell, Harmond, and Michele to are your Lucy's. Off the bench, Coltman, Honeck, Thwaites, Selby Rickett, Liam Squire, Aaron Smith, Solomon Alamalo, and Hugh Renton. Boy, oh boy, is that more sort of caps and more experience coming off the bench than there is actually on the pitch?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? The news this week has all been about Folau Fakatava, hasn't it? That's what we've all heard about. Aaron Smith's re-signed the contract. Oh, where's he going to go? He's got to move. He's got to go somewhere else. A pile of rubbish, if you ask me. Put that on the scrap heap and give it out to the recycle bin. I mean, the Highlanders, is this a plan, or have they kind of gone, okay, obviously there's a new contract trying to go to him. The talk is to Fakatava at the Highlanders. Have they gone, okay, well, let's sweeten the deal for you here, Folau. Let's make it a little bit nicer for you. Have a start in your next match. Show us what you can do at this level. Do you deserve to stay at the Highlanders anyway? Have a little bit of a sweetener there for him. So I'm keen to see how he's going to go. It's really, after this week and to see him named to start, it's been really, really interesting to see the reaction now of the player and how he's going to go when it comes to match time. But I think the Highlanders really lacked last week was the bench. The bench come on, especially I think in the forwards. Those guys, they were already struggling, but it got worse. I mean, Highlanders line-out's normally fairly solid. It fell away quite substantially after the guys like Coltman and that came on. They can't afford to let that happen again, especially against the Chiefs. Okay, you get away if the Crusaders are going to thump you probably anyway. It was going that way. But against the Chiefs, this pack battle is going to be massive. It's going to be crucial. If they can win that, this game, the pack battle is going to decide it. So that's massively important for them to actually stand up and play throughout. Guys like Shelby Rickett's going to be really, really important. And, like you spoke about, the experience of the bench, Aaron Smith, Alo Marlow, Squire, big experience, big players, big game players as well. And if these guys can get in this match, get themselves in the lead, control the game, put it away at the end, have a nice finish from their finishers, as they like to call them nowadays, off the bench. So looks good. But yeah, the thing is for me, Josh Ioane off the bench last week looked a bit better, looked a bit more attacking, looked a bit more aggressive, taking on the line ball in hand. That'll help them as well. And what's Fakatava going to do? He's going to have the eyes on him. Watch Sky this weekend, do player cam. If it's a Highlander, will it be Fakatava? I bet you it will be.
Yeah, I mean, there's two people. Obviously, bring Gatland against his old team, so that's going to be monitored a bit like Bowden Barrett's first game against the against Hurricanes to the Blues. Will we see Bryn Gatland getting mobbed in a try celebration in the same way that Bowden Barrett did? That was going to be my question for Gatland in that media conferences, or my advice to him: avoid any try celebrations by the Highlanders, mate. Was going to be, but I didn't get to say that, unfortunately. You got to say that what I think we're seeing from the Highlanders here is a reaction to last year. Last year, all the players said how attritional and how the Super Rugby Aotearoa was with back-to-back derbies. And I think what we're seeing here is that Brown's taken that on board and he's rotating his team. I don't think this is going to be. I don't think this is a reaction just to contract negotiations for Fakatava, or that Solomon necessarily play badly last weekend. I think it's an idea to keep the guys fresh, make sure the guys don't get too mashed up, and on with that. Nocturnal Right said reckons that Coleman gets a bit more. That Dixon will basically gets a free ride when his arrows aren't working, but Coleman always gets the same. Gets it mentioned. Oh well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes this weekend.
Spotlight.
After that, on Friday night, we head over the ditch to the Waratahs versus the Force, and predictions time. I'm going for the Chiefs. I think they can. I think they've got the cattle to do this. You clearly will be going for the Highlanders. Absolutely.
5 points, no question.
So I think it'll be a close one. Absolutely.
Yep.
I think it'll score either way. Over to the Waratahs then. Marky Mark at 15, Maddox at 14, Newsom and Maria in the centres, Ram on the other wing. Will Harrison and Jack Grant are the halves. Across the front row, Faulkner, Porecki, Johnson Holmes, Caird and Sinclair are the locks. Swinton, Tisano and Jack Dempsey are your Lucy's. The Western Force, and then off the bench, Horton, Tatola, Talakai, Wetton, Williams, and then to the backs, Robertson, Edmed, and Riley. And you're looking at some of those players on the bench. You're thinking, who the hell's that? Again, Waratahs coming off the back of 2 big losses, but they've been against the 2 top teams. They've played the Reds and the Brumbies. What do you think of the Waratahs ahead of the Western Force? Are they really that poor? Is this a team that really is in the doldrums that far?
Yeah, I reckon they are. They've had a horror. It's not like they've been just beaten. They've been absolutely pummeled in the last couple of weeks. See, the Reds, okay, first game this season, it was a little bit competitive for a while, and the Reds, pumped them in the second half. But boy, that Brumbies game last week was just a demolition. It wasn't a well built up, game from the Brumbies where they worked into it and they just smoked, but they just thrashed them from start to finish. It was never really even a match at any point. So I think this is a battle of that wooden spoon. Whoever loses this is pretty much, halfway to securing that, because I can't see long run, especially the Waratahs, beating any of those other 3 sides, especially the way the Rebels played last week. Consistency will come into their story later on. Is that they can keep that performance up against the Reds in future. But boy, the Brumbies and the Reds are quite streaks ahead of what we're seeing from these bottom place 2 sides. So I think it is danger time for the Waratahs. But you go into that first game against the Reds, and I think season opener, first game, okay, you can kind of let that go. And then to go into the Brumbies, they'll be looking top tier team. It's like expectation would be to perform, try and keep it close, and make a match out of it. They got thumped. Now it's still die. It's must win. They can't afford to lose this game. They've gone from let's do our best, let's get out there, a bit of confidence boost, and now it's like, this is it. Got to win. Can't lose. You've got to put everything out there. So I expect the performers will be a bit more passionate, I hope anyway, a bit more dedicated, and they should put in a better performance, because really it can't get much worse. But book me a ticket on the Force train, because I'm right there for this one.
Yeah, I think on the Waratahs, they're going to get they're desperate, as you say. This is a must-win game for them. The Western Force, you look at who they've got, you're like, well, they've not played together, so they're going to take a while to gel. They will improve, right? You can they've got the pieces that to make the jigsaw. The Waratahs, they've lost a couple of. They're looking down the back of the sofa trying to find pieces, because they're like, oh my word, we've lost all these players. So for them, this is a must-win one, and I think that could lead to desperation, which could lead to an awful lot of whistle and an awful lot of penalties in this one. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bit of a stop-start game, in all honesty, with some very desperate players for those Waratahs who are basically because. Rob Penny is. They're already members of the Waratahs board have already said that they're talking to other coaches, and I mean seriously, this is it's a mess in Tarsland. Rob Penny is not the problem, right? Losing a matchday squad's worth of international players in 2 years is the problem. It's higher up than Penny. it's going to be desperate, as Dr. Wright said, low confidence plus a whole bunch of very, very desperate people in that TARS thing could lead either to a standout performance as they all step up, or to a really ragged performance as everyone knows their job is on the line. Across to the force then, Rob Kearney at the back, Ralston on one wing with Kurandrani and Richard Kahui in the centres, Tony Pulu on the other wing. McIntyre and Cabelli are the halves. Across the front row, Robertson, Kaitu, Medrano, Thrush and Lee Warner in the engine room, and Anstey, Coetta and Stander are the Lucies, with the Stander taking over the captaincy with Pryor off on the bench. On the bench, Reddy, Wagner and Holmes across the front row. McClawley, Lezana in there. Ian Pryor, Domingo Miyoti and Marcel Bracchi on the bench. So only 3 internationals at least 3 foreign internationals on the bench there, with Lezana, Miyoti and Bracchi, all international players. So strong bench to come on and help finish things out. It just comes down to the chemistry between the players, really, doesn't it?
Well, this is only appropriate time to do this, but I think we just might do a shirt change just to support our Waratahs side now, since we've moved on from the Highlanders. So let's go to the Puma players that are involved. Domingo Miyoti, how awesome is it to see him back in Super Rugby again? Fantastic, talented young player. So I'm excited to see him coming off the bench, and the injury to John O'Lance as well. So that is going to help them out, get him on the field later on. Jake McIntyre I thought was really good in his little impactful play at the start of the season. So promising signs. Where did Tony Pulu come from? Did you even know that the Force had signed Tony Pulu in their team? I didn't even know. You've stolen another player from the Brumbies. So they've got players coming out from all over the show, stealing everyone. But again, it's the same point we talked about after the Force's first game. That midfield is what worries me. And when you look at guys like Pulu, Ralstons and Carneys, I just want to see them pass a little bit more, get it out the back, those guys. And I think we're going to see a bit more from the Standers and guys like that who were outstanding last year. They're going to probably stand up a lot more in this matchup as well. So I'm expecting big things. It's a better team than last year, much improved, another week under the belt, more depth coming through the team, more Pumas in the side. It's all plus, and let's go. Waratahs doing the title from the Sea of Blue. That's what we like to see. Force all the way, not even any doubt.
So it's one of those ones where if you look at the names, Force against Waratahs, historically the Force are going to lose, right? It's one of those ones where you just look at the matchup and you just go, how can you pick the Force over the Waratahs? Because it's just one of those ones you just don't do. But looking at the sides, you have to, and hence I've gone with the Force. But it took a big brain shift for me to get over that hurdle. So just see the task now go and ruin my $3. I'm backing the Forces one, and as you say, it's that old and non-passing centre partnership. So your question is, how does the ball get out to those other guys? Tony Pulu, we know, has got pace to burn, and can do magical things. This is look, they've got all the ingredients. It's the chemistry. And that chemistry is slowly building. But against the poor Waratahs side, they should have too much for them.
One really weird thing I found about this matchup when I looked at the Waratahs team was what they've done with Maddox and Nwanganitawasi. Why swap? I can see they want to get Maddox into the game, okay, put him on the wing, but then you put in your other kind of exciting, make something happen winger at fullback. So they're so similar players. It's like, what are you gaining? What are you losing? You're not really getting anything more than the other on this one. It's a real weird change, I find. Maddox, I thought, was a bit more impactful last week. I thought he had the ball a bit more and made a couple of decent little breaks. But, geez, I don't know what the advantage is there at all. At least at fullback, he can kind of come in, like we talk about McKenzie, and make something happen in midfield or off his shoulder. Now he's on the wing. Is he going to be more freedom to get the ball and play, or is he just going to be stuck out in the wing now instead? So, bizarre one for me.
Yeah, agreed. It is a strange one. Also, you're putting an actual winger at fullback and someone who's used to playing fullback at wing. come on, guys. Yeah, it all looks a bit strange, but I wouldn't be surprised by anything that happens in Tarsland at the moment, the way that it's just such a mess, to be honest with you. The only more dysfunctional team around at the moment is the one that's gone bust, which is the Kings. Moving on then to Saturday with the Brumbies versus the Rebels. Looking at the Brumbies, you've got Banks at fullback, Muirhead in the 14 jersey, Aotearoa and Simone in the centre combination, Mac Hansen on the other wing, Lolosio and White are your centre combination. Sorry, not centre combination. Your halves combination. Sio, McKerney, Aotearoa across that front row. Swain and Neville in the engine room. Valentini, Brown, and Pete Samu are your Lucy's. Longerin, Lloyd, Ross are your forward replacements. Tucker, James Tucker, ex Waikato player in there. Tom Cusack, Longerin, Pasitoa, and Kata are the replacements. James Tucker definitely more a kind of loose a six rather than an engine room kind of guy. So a bit like the Chiefs, potentially some worries there for the Brumbies if they lose one of their locks early on. I would suggest, but a pretty much well-oiled machine and a nice 10, 12, 13 combination that's starting to develop there as well.
Yeah, the well-oiled machine's probably a bit of an understatement for them, isn't it? They're like a steam train just smoking through every sort of bit of timber and stuff that's lying on the tracks. They're just blasting everything out of their way. When do they get a test? I mean, yeah, this is probably going to be their biggest one to bring on when they play the Reds. I mean, I probably have to say a little bit of apologies for poor old Mac Hansen. I paid him out last week as being a bit of, is he really a Super Rugby level winger? And then he goes and bags a hat-trick against the woeful Waratahs. But hey, fair credit to him to get out there and do that. But yeah, super team, hard to beat, good midfield, and the combination of midfield we like. A playmaker and a runner versus, that charging, defender sucker player who just draws players in and makes room for his guys outside. And Simone's the guy who's going to make things happen. So they got that two playmakers of Lolosio. Simone does a lot of work at first receiver. They do play well together. This young guy, Kitel's come in. He's making waves now as well. They just make the right calls. I mean, Tavita who? The Brumbies don't miss him whatsoever. They've moved on now. They got the new next best thing in a 13 jumper. So the Brumbies really are. I said it last year, the Crusaders of Australian rugby. Sure, it's a bit of a different level, but they just, by Australian standards, churn out the next best thing. And they're streaks ahead of what the other teams are doing in those sort of levels. The Reds have been really, really good over the last season or two, but still the Brumbies consistently at that level. They lose guys and they don't completely fall off the radar like the Waratahs have. They lose guys every season, yet they still bring in these new guys, or they shift players out when they get near the end, and bring in the next wave of player.
Yeah, and that's it.
I see you say.
Yeah, I'm just saying, a bit like the Crusaders, right? They introduce 1 and 2 players with players around them who know how to play, right? Mm-hmm. So sure, Ikitau's come in, but he's got Simone, who's had a full season now inside and is a Wallaby, and he's got Muirhead and Banks around him. Mac Hansen again coming new, but yeah, it's just 2 new guys in that back line. It's not 3 or 4 with and then sure. I mean, Lolosio not the most experienced at this level, but he's been in the Wallabies camp. Nick White also lots of experience. So again, you're pairing up a new guy and an experienced guy. So they're introducing players in the right way, whereas not just saying let's have a brand new team like the Waratahs have done.
Have they, though? Look at the Waratahs backline in this. Will Harrison's been playing 2 seasons now. James Rand's been around for a couple of seasons. Newsom's been around forever. Maddox has been around forever. And Nwanganitwazi's been around for a few 3 seasons or so now as well. So in that backline for this week, they've got maybe Maroa, Grant, and that's it. That are actually new players this sort of season. These guys have been around long enough. It's just that atmosphere and winning, the culture, the mentality of winning games as well. And hey, look, Mac Hansen, what did he do last season? He come on, new player, smacked over a winning penalty to win the game. Mentality, knowing you can do that. Would a Force player come on and do that in this current situation? Would a Waratahs player come off the bench? It's hard to see that they'd have that mental ability, to confidence to do that sort of job. So that's what it all comes down to. And coming into a side and believing you could win, having that belief. That's tough for a Waratahs player to come into that culture and believe that they're going to win based on 2 weeks.
There was some talk about backs joining the line-out drive illegally last week in Aussie. Brumbies might get stung by refs for it this week. Yeah, they'll need to be a bit more careful about it. Look, you're not allowed to slide past the ball carrier. The ball has to move backwards. The players can't move forwards, right? So, yes, they were joining illegally. Is it something that every other team gets away with to a greater or less degree? Absolutely, it is. It's just, hey, you've got to find something to talk about apart from just the Brumbies, as you say, steamrolling the opposition, and that's what they chose to talk about. So yes, and it didn't help that Lolosio came in and actually scored a try off the back of the ball as well. Still, so yes, I'm sure he's had plenty of fun ribbings about hey, stop training the backs, come train over with us at the line-out time, please, and stuff like that during training during the week. But yes, it's the well-oiled machine against the Rebels side that I think actually performed better than we expected last week in their defence, because again, a whole bunch of names they've brought in a bunch of new names, and they seem to have stepped up. So Pickus is your 15, Anderson on one wing, Stacey Illy from the Manukau Rovers over there in the 13 jersey alongside Reece Hodge, Corabetti on the other wing. Tamua and Powell are the halves. Wells, Hardwick, I've gone the wrong way. Elof, Hansen, and Famasa are the front row. Haylett Petty and Horsey are in the engine room. Kemeny, Hardwick, and Wells are your Lucy's. Off the bench, Craig and Kalai, Sordoni, Steve Cummins, and Leota. Moving, one of 3 players potentially for the scrum half position in James Tuttle, Brad Wilkin, or Tom Newland, to be decided apparently. Frank Lamani and Glenn Vahu are the make out the 23 or the 25, depending on how you read it in this one. Looking at that side, as I say, look, performed better than we expected last week. I expect a strong defensive performance, so that the Brumbies don't get to run away with it. But I don't see enough on attack to put enough points on the board to worry the Brumbies personally.
First things first, we just have to pay respect to another Argentinian player, Sordoni, in the reserves. So to make his impact as well. Good to see another one smashing his way through. But yes, the Rebels absolutely shocked and stunned me last weekend. Completely unexpected performance. But let's talk about why they actually performed well on the scoreboard. They took those 3 points. Opportunity come up, they took 3. What did the Highlanders not do? What did the Hurricanes and the Blues for a lot of period not do? And what did the Reds certainly not do as well? They didn't take their 3 points. I think they get 7 penalties out of 10 attempts, I think it was, in the end for the Rebels. They almost won that game without even looking like they were going to score a try. But like you said, Paul, their defensive effort absolutely frustrated the Reds beyond belief. They just want to score tries, and they couldn't score tries, and they were relentlessly just hammering away. Sure, they broke through a couple of times, but if you're going up the other end and just picking off those threes, turning that scoreboard over, creating that pressure, it tells something wicked, and it really did. They should have won that game. They should be sitting there, convert that penalty for Tamua. I tell you what, if he took that in training the next day, which he would have, I bet you 100 times, he smoked all of them. That's how well he would, you'd expect him to get that kick. But on the field, we talked about last week in the preview, didn't we? How important Matt Tamua was going to be. How he plays was going to affect how that team plays. He played pretty well. He had a pretty decent matchup. Outshone O'Connor, who was pretty much a non-existent factor after being brilliant in round 1. He is so important, and his combination with Joe Powell, another experienced number 9 in Australian rugby. Those guys are key. But I do want to get a little shout-out to Karbus Elof, the big number 1. Phenomenal, outstanding player. He had a great game in the scrum for the Rebels last weekend. And it'll be good to see as well Farmasili actually play rugby and not just chase Taliana Tupou around just trying to smash each other all game. So we might get to see a bit of him around the field.
that was the prop I thought you were going to be talking about, because yes, scrum time is going to be interesting, right?
And
so because yes, that could be somewhere that the Red Rebels could get the upper hand on the Brumbies, because Fa'amausili did a very good job last weekend in that, and when he went off, the next prop came in and basically got broken by Tupu, and so they had to bring it back on again. Scrum time is one area that perhaps, and if they can get those big bodies in the way of the maul, maybe, just maybe, they can stop it. But the Brumbies are not going to increase in threes. The Brumbies are going to kick the corner and use that maul, and you're going to be able to stop it. So we will see how this one pans out. But maybe it is going to be threes versus line out mauls, and we'll see who has the most at the end. But I'm backing the Brumbies quite comfortably in this one.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, Brumbies should do this one quite comfortably. And I do agree with that comment by Nocturnal as well. I do believe, you got to find a balance, and you got to read the situation of the game. Sometimes, going for those 5s or 7 is the way to go. But, geez, if you've been down that end of the river, 2 or 3 times and you're not getting any return, you've got to come away with something. Sometimes it can change a match. So, hey, I mean, if the Rebels kept kicking for those corners, they would have come out of a 24-0 or 23-0 loss. They wouldn't have got anything. So you got to read the game.
Absolutely. And finally, the Crusaders versus the Hurricanes. So we haven't got the sides for this one, but the games we moved to Sunday to hopefully be able to have a full stadium with the whole COVID levels and all of that kind of thing, and we'll see whether that happens or not. And by the way, I think it's like 700 people are at the Chiefs game. They've managed to have 100 blocks with each with their own entryway and that kind of thing. So there'll be a small crowd at the Chiefs game, but unfortunately, because of COVID, there's not a space for me with my media pass. Normally there would, otherwise I was going to be there. So yes, damn COVID. Anyway, moving on then. Crusaders versus Hurricanes. Look, at the end of the day, it's you've got to back the Crusaders, especially at home. For the Hurricanes, it's going to be. We're still going to wonder about that halves combination, aren't we? With 9 and 10, So those are going to be the kind of the Crusaders rolling on as we'd expect. I've not heard of any particular injuries or any extra injuries. So I think we'll see a pretty similar side as we saw last time. Maybe some rotation to keep some players fresh. For the Hurricanes, a settled pack that's probably going to get pushed around, and some backs that are going to, outside backs are going to wish they got the ball a bit more because the halves are going to perhaps take the wrong options, and I think that's how we're going to see the game go.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up there. It's going to be forward dominated. I think fairly similar to what we've seen last weekend with the Crusaders, that they'll just win those forward battles, control the game, get into that second half and finish the match off as they always do so well. I just don't see that pack from the Hurricanes getting enough kind of dominance at set piece time and around the field that should see them get any control over that matchup. It's just a typical sort of Crusaders team, isn't it? And the way they played last weekend, I expect more from them the same. I think the Hurricanes got a few little problems, like most of the teams do. It's the Blues have got similar sort of issues. The Highlanders have got similar sort of issues as well, and the Chiefs, we're expecting to have similar sort of issues as well. So I think it's going to be quite a little tussle. I think we might see results throughout the season, chop and change as the weeks go on throughout the competition. So that home and away advantage is going to prove to be quite an important thing. Hey, later on in the year, who knows what situation we'll be in when the Crusaders go to the Canes. This could be quite a different fixture. But at home, and hopefully with a good crowd, it should be pretty dominant, plain sailing for the champions to continue on their barnstorming choo-choo Brumbies train, smash everyone just like they are doing over the Tasman as well.
It's going to Hurricanes need to play helter-skelter high-energy game to have a chance to get Crusaders moaning and angry. Okay. It'll be interesting to see if they can do that. I'd be surprised if they can, if the Crusaders defense would allow them to play at that kind of pace. So in all honesty.
The problem with the Hurricanes, though, is they got the guys on the outside, but you're not going to get. They got a lot of straighteners, is what I'm trying to say. The midfield are generally straighteners or runners. They're not going to just switch it from end to end and get the outside backs to outpacing, especially when you got if they play with Salvia on one side again. He's just going to straighten as well. He's the sort of winger who goes over people, not around people. So yes, the Lucies can play at a open pace sort of game. But I just see the back line, you're going to get Faze up, you'll get Laumape hitting it up, and then you'll get a Salvia hit up out in the wing. And you might get, out wide with Husamuk for a wee scamper and do something a little bit high paced and exciting. But generally, you'll get the back rollers and those midfield guys doing things mainly through the middle of the park. And then, like you say, the options of a bad halves era is pretty high as well with them in there. So, yeah, I'll get if they want a chance. It's saying they could try because they're not going to win the game over the pack, are they? So be creative, Hurricanes.
Exactly. So don't forget to join it. I'll be live straight after the Chiefs versus the Highlanders. After the final whistle, we'll be live here, bringing you post-match reaction. And then on Sunday evening at 8 p.m, we'll bring you the Super Rugby review show. I've decided not to do post-match reaction to the Crusaders versus the Hurricanes because basically that'll be about half an hour before the review show. So it seems a bit pointless going on and doing two shows quite so back to back. So, but we will be live, straight after the Chiefs versus the Highlanders. Cornflake, thank you very much for joining me. Have a great end to your week. And folks, the weekend, it's not too far away.